And we're live. Welcome to Mormon Book Reviews, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. I'm your host, Stephen Pynakker, and it's Friday Night Alive right here in this world. So let me know if you can hear me loud and clear if you're in the chat. Also, give thumbs up to this video so that it gets in front of more people. I always wait a little bit until I make sure I get a notification, which I haven't received yet. So I want people to get their notifications that I have gone live. And then we'll start talking about some really interesting stuff and interesting developments here at MBR. First of all, this is also the opportunity for those of you who would like to ask me any questions or have any comments for me. Join me in the live chat. I'm here, and I basically just interact with the chat with me speaking into the microphone, kind of riffing on the conversation happening. Colch says hello from Disney World. Welcome, Colch. That's right. You told me you're taking your family out there. Hope you're having a great time. You're getting closer and closer to me. IDK 4003 says Steve. Hi, IDK. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody's having a lovely start to their weekend. Typically here in the States, our weekends start when you clock out of work on Friday, and it goes through Sunday. Alan Young says hello from Provo. Alan, hello. Good to hear from Provo. That's actually one of my favorite places to go visit in Utah. Alan, have you ever been to Brent Ashworth's store in downtown where he has all those historical artifacts and stuff? If you haven't, go check out Brent Ashcraft's store. It's like in the basement area, and it's right next to the is it the Tabernacle? Right next, is it the Tabernacle in downtown Provo? Or is that a temple? I think it's the old one. I forget, but yeah, it's right there. So yeah, and then Ted says, "Do you know Rick Bennett of Gospel Tangents?" Yes, Ted. I actually, the very first interview I ever did was with Rick Bennett of Gospel Tangents. I was so excited, man. Meeting Rick Bennett was the biggest thing in the world, and talking to him on the phone. And Alan says, yes, he's been there several times. And isn't Brent just an awesome human being, folks? I mean, oh my gosh, I've had Brent on many times. I really want to get him back on to do his show and tell series. That's been really popular. IDK says, I haven't been to I haven't been to a live in a while, so I haven't had a chance to ask you. Now that Meta Ray bands have been invented, does that officially make the Urim and Thummim anachronistic? That's good. That's interesting. It does kind of remind me, what's his name? What's the one who was comparing the stone to an iPhone? Wilcox. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Alan Young says we call that building the Temple Knuckle. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. And so yeah, it's always nice to hear from people in the chat. So we got people jumping in. Let's see. I haven't received my notification yet, but I'm assuming people are, because people are jumping in. I don't know why they don't do the notification like right when you go live. Doesn't make any sense to me. That's the whole point of doing these live streams, is we do that. So I wanted to let everybody know, give you an update on things that are happening here on the channel. And I want to talk about my conversation I had today with the mayor of Fairview, Texas, Henry Lessner. We spoke on the phone, and I want to get into the details of that. I'm going to save that a little more towards the end because people are still jumping in. So I want to give a few updates for the channel and let everybody know. First of all, this morning I taped an interview with a Mormon apologist, if you want to call him that, Jonathan Neville, and Christian apologist, if you want to call him that, Dr. Randy Bell. Dr. Randy Bell, of course, has been on Mormon Stories as well as with on Mormonism Live, talking about his Dartmouth hypothesis, and that a lot of the stuff that was being taught to Hiram at Dartmouth made its way into Joseph Smith's teachings, and that he was an influence, Dartmouth was. But I wanted to have him on with Jonathan Neville because, of course, he has the hypothesis that Jonathan Edwards was highly influential in the translation process of the Book of Mormon and even the Doctrines and Covenants. And so these are two guys who are both very, very similar. They both travel the world. They like to explore. They like to do their own research. And it was actually a genuinely pleasant conversation. Colch asks, are you going on Jacob's cruise? You know what? If they invite me and they give me a free ticket, I'll go. How's that, Colch? So then I wanted to let people know that I'm going to be going to my very first general conference, which will be April 11th through the 13th in Greensburg or Greenville, Pennsylvania. I forget where they have their general conference centers. Green something. I think it's Greenville or Greenburg. I don't know. not too far where some of my family is lives, some of my cousins and aunts and uncles. And that is going to be for the General Conference for the Church of Jesus Christ, which is headquartered in Mahagalea, I think I say it. And that will be the very first church in the Restoration that'll be in going to their General Conference. And as I was telling Josh Gailey, who invited me to come on up there, is it's appropriate the very first General Conference that I would be attending would be the Church of Jesus Christ, because that was the very first church in the Restoration that I ever visited as well. So it all kind of comes full circle. So I'll be flying out there on April 11th and then just coming back on the 13th. That will also be the very first flight that I've been taken since I've had my issues with my ears, my right ear. Now, just so people understand, I have serious issues when I travel, when I fly. And so one of the reasons I had to cancel all my flights last year was because I was concerned just about too much going on up here. But now that I've habituated, and by the way, I'm going to my tonight's support group tomorrow in Bradenton. Now that I've habituated, I've now been cleared to fly by my ENT. So this will be my first test. This will be my first test. Let me see. Steve, are you going on Jacob's Cruise? And it calls us $50 off promo with Hansen Cole, just for your information. Thanks for the information, Coach. James Massey says it's Greensburg, PA, Steve. Thank you, James. Greensburg. Appreciate that. Colt says, congrats, Steve. Glad your health is well enough to make the trip. Yeah, I'm excited. And actually came this close. Zion Media offered to send me to the Yucatan to go witness Chief Mitika's Indigenous Peoples event that's happening out there. And I thought about doing it. But then I thought, I don't know if the first test of me flying I'd rather be flying into a first world airport than a third world, And of course, Cancun's probably a pretty modern city, but we'd fly into Cancun and then we'd drive like an hour and a half into the interior, and it gets a little bit more, let's say, rustic. But I decided not to go on that trip. I do want to wish everybody well who's going out to the Yucatan for this Indigenous peoples thing that's supposedly some kind of revealing of, well, I've heard the birch scrolls were going to be revealed, but I don't know if that's happening, but that Chief Mitika is doing that whole thing. I wanted to check that out. Then the 16th through the 18th, so a quick turnaround, I'm then going to fly out to Mesa, Arizona. I was invited by Robert of Book of Mormon Editions to fly out to Mesa, Arizona to attend the Easter pageant for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In the past, Robert and his family have participated in the pageant, but this year they were unable to. But he did invite me last year, and I couldn't come because, of course, my ear. But now I'm going to do it. And Robert's actually flying me out there and going to let me stay at his house. So that's so awesome. I love Robert. He's one of my favorite YouTubers out there. Check out the Book of Mormon Editions YouTube channel. It's really a great resource for all things Book of Mormon. Alan Young says, I am too cursed with tinnitus. Colt says, I love Mesa. And then Colt says, sorry to hear that, Alan. And Alan, what I have is tinnitus with hypoacusis. So not only do I have the constant ringing in my ear, but I'm also very sensitive to sounds. So when this first happened, I was actually bedridden for a month and a half because I could not leave my room because any sounds I heard just bothered me. Like if my neighbor's air conditioner kicked on in our front room window, I had to go in my bedroom because it was too loud. The sound of an air conditioner or a refrigerator was too loud. I couldn't stand the sound of crickets outside, so I couldn't go walk outside at night. It was just a miserable experience. And so, but a lot of support from people, a lot of prayers, and a great support team with my ENTs and doctors. And then as well as the Tonight support group has been a real blessing. Okay, so let me now talk about Jacob Hansen, the interview that Jacob Hansen did with me this week. And then we're going to talk about my conversation I had today with Mayor Henry Lessner, who I will be interviewing this weekend. And stay tuned because I will give the details on that, because look for a special episode of MBR to be released sometime this weekend. I wanted to talk about the aftermath of my conversation with Jacob. And give you kind of the backstory. Some of you may not be clear on how exactly this all happened, but essentially, and by the way, if there's anybody that wants to make a donation to MBR and get a shout out in the chat, that'd be great. Always appreciate when people donate. It really is a blessing to this group. We really have a shoestring budget here. I'm not making any money. I'm just doing this. Really, it's a labor of love. If anything, I get enough just to cover expenses, but that's fine. Maybe we'll grow to the point where this will be full-time living gig money. But that's that's in the Lord's hands. I just got to keep on going out there and putting out stuff, and hopefully people get blessed by the work that we're doing here at MBR, and also get to learn more about Mormon history, and also get to learn more about just the restoration in general and hearing different perspectives. Yeah, lots of stuff, great stuff coming. Can't wait for Dr. Bell. Yeah, this conversation with Jonathan Neville and Randy Bell is absolutely fantastic. That episode could be released probably as early as this Tuesday, so look for that one. Okay, so Jacob approached me on, actually texted me on Monday afternoon, a few hours after the interview was dropped of him on Alex O'Connor's channel. And he texted me and said, "Do you want first crack at this? Because I would love to come on your program to talk about what basically what all led up to the interview and then the interview itself." And I said, "Sure, Jacob, when do you want to do it?" And he's like, "Well, can we tape as early as tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Sure." And so I actually had my assistant Anthony make a thumbnail on Monday night ready to go. And then on Tuesday, we taped it. And then a couple hours after the interview, I released the episode a little earlier than I typically do, and got a lot of views and comments. A. Brewster says, "Hi, Steve." A. Brewster, how are you? And so Jacob, then so Monday night I said, "Okay, Jacob, I'll watch it tonight, and then we'll go from there." And then I'll look at some of the comments and what people are saying. And then what I did was I also went on Reddit and posted in that group and said, "Listen, I'm going to be interviewing Jacob tomorrow. Please feel free to ask any questions that you would want of Jacob, or any comments. Put them in here." And actually, I sent Jacob the link to that, and he appreciated it. And he actually ended up answering some of those questions that were posed to him in the Mormon Reddit. So that's a good thing. I typically post those kind of things in the Mormon Reddit. Check that out. That's kind of more middle of the road between ex-Mormon and faithful places, and you have different voices there. And so I feel that's probably the best Reddit for where I can communicate to my community, because I think that fits the demographics better of my group, of my channel, than the other Reddit groups do. And so Jacob reached out to me, and I taped it with him, and people thought I did a good job. And I wasn't sure, because sometimes people think maybe I take it easy on some people. And shortly after the interview was released, I received text messages from Colch and Colby Reddish saying, "We thought you did a really good job on the interview." So I thought, well, if some of the two biggest critics of Jacob Hansen appreciated the interview, and Jacob Hansen himself appreciated the interview, then I think we were doing something right on Tuesday. And I do want to thank again everybody in the Reddit group, Mormon Reddit group, for helping inform the conversation. Maybe not all your questions. Obviously, I can't answer all the questions or ask all the questions, but I read everything, and sometimes that even informs just the general tone of the conversation, or gives me some ideas as well. So it's always greatly valued from the group. I should probably post some stuff on YouTube too, some of those questions. I sometimes forget to do that. I've just been so entrenched in Reddit for so long that I forget there's other platforms that could be having these same types of conversations. So Jacob then, he's talked to me about maybe doing some future collaborations. Maybe I can do a collaboration on the cruise, Jacob. What do you think? I don't know. It would be nice. I've actually never been on a cruise before. I hope to one day maybe do that. That'd be kind of fun. But yeah. So Jacob, actually, Jacob and I talked or did some texting afterwards. He got me in touch with another YouTuber this week that's doing some interesting stuff. He's got a poll thing that he's doing where he asks people questions and put them on the spectrum of where they're at. I'm going to probably tape something with him and have me take the classes or take the test. And he's with the Ether's Elephant is the name of the YouTube channel, Ether's Elephant, and it's a faithful program, and it just got started up. And I had a great talk with the host of that program. Okay, now, and again, this in the live chat, feel free to ask me any questions or have any comments. I do monitor them while I'm doing this. I want to now talk about the phone call I had with Mayor Henry Lessner. I keep on wanting to say Harry, so I have to make sure I get the right name here. With Henry Lessner, who is the mayor of Fairview, Texas. Okay. Oh, okay. Colch says, "You did well, Steve. Only issue I had was Jacob taking over the questions portion, but you cleared that up for me." Yeah. And I defended Jacob there too, and that's always cool. And so there's an associate of mine who wishes to remain anonymous at this time, got me in touch with the mayor of Fairview, Texas. We were supposed to call me at 5 p.m. Eastern time today, but then I got a text message about 10, 15 minutes after 5 saying, I'm sorry, I'm talking with the Dallas Morning News right now. They're actually here. They were in his office. He says, I will call you as soon as I'm done with them. So he calls me and we have a good conversation. And I'm like, well, I explained to him, that he's been going on a lot of programs. He wants to get the word out. He wants to get his side out there because there's a narrative going around that basically it's an anti-Mormon thing that's trying to keep this thing from going on. This gentleman is far from being anti-Mormon. And so he felt like it was important to go on a more faithful site to kind of talk to a faithful audience, to kind of give his side of the story, and also try to make this as an opportunity to reach out to the leadership of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that he would like to speak with them directly. He feels like he's been a person who's done negotiations in his companies and stuff like that. And typically when they do those kind of things, he talks to the CEOs of those companies. He doesn't talk to the lawyers. And in this case, it's just kind of different and weird for him because he's like, I don't get this. Why am I talking to lawyers? Why can't I talk to the actual decision makers at the church? Which makes sense. Whenever you're in negotiations or you're having conversations, you want to talk to the decision makers. You don't want to go through third parties. And he's smart to talk publicly so much. Ted says that. Okay. And then, so I had a nice talk with him. I kind of explained to him, I said, listen, I was on Mormonism with the Murph, which is a faithful channel. And I said, and I kind of defended the church during this whole thing, but I think it's really important to hear your side and get your views on this thing. And so we're going to tape. We looked at our calendars. He got back to me. And so we're going to tape this Sunday afternoon. And what I'd like to is I want to kind of open this up especially for people after this episode. It'd probably be better if you want to put it in the chat, that's fine, but it actually might be easier to put it in the comments section of this video, or you could go to Reddit. I've opened up a thread there. If you have any questions for the mayor, this is this is an opportunity for audience participation to be able to ask the mayor some questions and see what he's been going through. So Kobe Reddish, Mormon Reddit fan shout out. That's right. And I've been giving them shout outs as well. By the way, don't forget to continue to give thumbs up to this so it gets in front of more people. I still haven't received a notification that this has gone live. It drives me crazy. So I hate that. I wish they were a little more consistent in that, but that's okay. So I've started a Reddit thing where I posted the link to this live feed in Reddit. I might even post another Reddit feed tomorrow, soliciting questions for Mayor Lessner. He seems like a really nice guy. We had a nice talk. Part of the reason they brought me into this whole thing too is that I actually have experience working in government. I've also run for political office, so I kind of understand how the sausage is made and how things are supposed to be done. So there'll also be kind of a political and an understanding of municipal politics and that kind of stuff that I can kind of bring to the table as well. I mean, it's not that extensive, but I have a little bit of knowledge in that area too. So my knowledge of Mormonism plus my knowledge of just having some governmental experience and political experience can also add to the conversation as well, and maybe bring us into some areas that maybe haven't been explored during this whole temple controversy. I mean, it ultimately had Nemo the Mormon flying out from England to talk about steeple height, and this has all become about steeple height, but also in many ways. And I talked about this on Mormonism with the Murph, and I talked to this with the mayor today too. I said, he says, why can't, well, I won't tell you what he said to me, only because I'll let him say it. And I don't know if he wants that out there, but he asked the question, like, why wouldn't they work with us when in the past they've shown a willingness to work with municipalities in the past? And I told him, I said, I really think this is because they feel like right now the church has a Supreme Court that would be very favorable to them. And they want to make this a First Amendment religious freedom issue. And so on one hand, this actually could give not only the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints more rights and freedoms in regards to how they're going to construct their church, their sacred spaces, but this will then, of course, maybe benefit all different churches, all different religions, and maybe communities that try to keep mosques out might not be able to do that because it'd be against religious discrimination. So there's the other side to that whole equation too that we need to look at as well. So that's why I think it's important for us just to be open-minded in this whole thing. I really want, especially the faithful members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, when you're watching this interview, and I'd love to have you ask some questions as well. So again, after most of you watch this after I do the live stream, but just put the questions in the comments that you have for him, or go to Reddit and seek out my posts that I posted earlier today, and I may post something else tomorrow. And let's start the conversation. What are your thoughts as well on this whole Fairfield Temple situation? Um, do you think the church is handling it properly? Do you think this is a First Amendment issue, a religious freedom issue, or do you think this is a zoning issue? Should local governments, some people argue that local governments have too much power in the zoning area and have these ridiculous rules and regulations. And if each town has different regulations, it makes it very difficult for companies to come in and have to make adjustments. I'm from Munster, Indiana, which historically has some of the strictest sign laws in the country. And growing up, we had like the smallest McDonald's sign in the country, the smallest whatever signs in the country, because they had very strict zoning laws. Some people are in favor of that. They don't like the clutter and they don't like all the big signs. Other people are concerned about just government overreach. So this just taps into a lot of different areas, not just religious, but governmental, and the rights of the state, the people, the churches, and how do you balance this all out? I think this is an important conversation to be had, especially in today's culture and society. And there are mega churches all over the place that have these huge things. And I just read an article, I think somewhere on Reddit, where there was a California mega church that basically threatened to sue the community over First Amendment grounds if they don't get their building approved, and the town council voted in favor of it. So this looks like a new thing that's happening. That seems that the churches are being emboldened to assert their First Amendment rights more aggressively, even in the matters of zoning. And Landon and Rebecca always say just obey the zoning laws. They've already allowed many churches to surpass the zoning rules, including the LDS Stake Center. The city kind of messed up without rules. Francis Robelin says it's politics, it's just politics. Okay, there's politics there as well. Yeah, and again, politics is my wheelhouse too. I ran for office and was involved in city and county government back in the day. So I kind of know how that is all done. And so, well, I usually, just so everybody knows, I usually tape live on Friday nights. I want to open up the chat to anybody with any questions or comments. If you're here right now, here's a chance. If you have any questions or comments, I'll keep this open for a couple more minutes. In the meantime, for those of you who would like to financially support the channel in the chat and get a shout out, it's greatly appreciated. I do get a kick out of it when somebody donates $1.99. Like Jack, for the first time, he gave a donation and for $1.99, and then it's just great to have these kind of experiences and talking to all these different people. Then just to give you all a little update, May 2nd and 3rd in Independence, Missouri is going to be the annual Book of Mormon Rally / Symposium. And that's open to all believers in the Restoration, all believers in the Book of Mormon, or fanboys of the Book of Mormon. Voila. I've spoken at 2 of them. I missed last year's, but I intend on getting out to the Book of Mormon rally, hopefully, maybe this May. If not, please make sure you go out to it, and I will have information about the Book of Mormon rally and symposium. I'm sure I'll post an interview with Patrick McKay about it soon, advertising. And then Haram B-Boy says, when is the entire Hansen family going on Mormon stories? I need a tell-all. That's funny. You never know. There's actually, most of the Hansen family are no longer members of the church, so there might be a few that would come on. And I just want to say I do like Jacob. I know not everybody does, and even viewers of mine, but I personally like him and I get along with him just fine. And I really appreciate the friendship and relationship and the trust that we've both been able to develop with each other. It's really important. I mean, he is an important voice in this space. And Harabi, so says Kolch. And I need to know how to pronounce that properly. Ted's okay. Okay. Yeah, when Jacob apologizes, Julie Hanks and other people, he's bullied. Okay, yeah. And look, do I agree that with everything that Jacob says or does? Of course not. I can say the same about with John DeLynn. I don't agree with everything he says or does either, or RFM or Bill Reel or just any number of people. I just kind of feel like, oh my goodness, Troy N gives $2.79 in the house. That's awesome. Let's see. It says I can like this. Can I like it? Oh wait, I'm going to give it a heart. There we go. NBR gave it a heart. I forgot I can do that. So $2.79. All right, man. Just working for the weekend, right? Okay. So this Sunday, the interview will be going down with the mayor of Fairview, Texas, about the whole situation going on with the temple and the zoning ordinances and all the adjustments that the church wants them to make. And this is an important, this could also become a very important legal precedent if this goes to the Supreme Court. This could be a First Amendment issue. This could be history in the making. So I think it's really important that we understand that this is not just a Mormon story. This is a story about religion. This is an American story. And it's a story that it could be a very precedent-setting case if this goes to the Supreme Court. Now, hopefully, we can get the mayor out to Utah. He wants to go out to Utah. He wants to meet with the leadership of the church. And I know there's people in the church office building and church employees that watch this program. I just want to let you know that that's going to be the offer there. And that's what we're going to try to do, is maybe facilitate a conversation from the leader of the city to the leadership of the church. Like I said, this is a gentleman who's accustomed to negotiating and building bridges via talking directly to the decision makers. That's typically how people do business in this country and the world. And so he wants to talk to the decision makers. He does not want to talk to the attorneys of the church. And I think that's a fair request, personally. I don't think that's unfair. I mean, who wants to talk to lawyers? Geez, that's actually, you should be talking to the lawyers at the end, not at the beginning, right? That's really how it's supposed to go. You actually do the face-to-face conversations, and then if it doesn't work out, you get the attorneys involved. Do you think for something that religions, and Bambi says that religions have priority? Yes, they have priority, and they do have certain privileges in this country that are baked into the very beginning of this country, including the Constitution, including early legislation that made churches tax exempt. That was kind of that was the deal that was made with the states and with the people as we were forming into our republic, was that there would be religious freedom for all. And so I think that that's really important. That's part of like the initial compact that really kind of brought this country together, because many of the people that came here were fleeing from religious persecution and wanted to practice their religion in their own way. And so this country provided that avenue. And so it's always been very, very protective of the church, the rights, the First Amendment rights that are in the church, but also just what many people say are their God-given rights. Of course, we have this idea that there's God-given rights even written in our independent Declaration of Independence. So this is not some kind of foreign concept to our country. And let's see, might be the language. Privilege. Bambi says privilege might be the language. The Francis says the church is run by a lawyer. Bambi says lawyers have a legal obligation as a fiduciary. And Troy N says, I mean, how difficult would it be for the church to have a temple building committee to help facilitate discussions? It would be cheaper than lawyers. Actually, that's really smart. Like, why not have like a specific, temple committee that actually does the outreach to these communities and actually can build a relationship, as opposed to, because usually when you get lawyers involved, it's kind of viewed as this is a versus type of situation, right? It's kind of like, and people kind of get scared when lawyers are involved in this stuff like this. So maybe they just need a different approach, a softer approach, especially as they're expanding and, they're accustomed to building temples in the Mormon corridor, where basically the communities pretty much roll out the carpet for the temples. And that's fine. That's what the people want. And that's what the communities want. But as you go into other areas that maybe Latter-day Saints might make up less than 1% of the population, they don't have the political power in those areas. And maybe the best thing to do is to maybe use this as an opportunity to educate these communities about the importance of temples and not get litigious right away. Ted says, I feel bad for church members in those cities. IDK 4003 says, not to mention it's in LDS scripture that the Constitution is basically an inspired text. That's true. Call it one tier below scripture. That's true. Later Daily Digest says, howdy. Gene, how you doing? And so, yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, so do this. Make sure you are subscribed make sure you have your notifications turned on, because the plan is I'm going to tape the Sunday afternoon interview with Mayor Henry Lessner this Sunday. At some point, probably rather quick turnaround, I will then release on my channel. So for those of you who want to be aware when this comes out, again, notifications don't always come out, but just keep your eye on my channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have your notifications turned on. Typically, the bell does work. Maybe it didn't work on my phone tonight, but that's okay. And be ready, because the mayor's going to extend an olive branch to the brethren and say, hey, let's sit down together. Come, let us reason together. So stay tuned, buckle up, because we are going to have a fascinating conversation with the mayor. I can tell already, just talking to him on the phone, that he's a really nice guy. Ted says, I will post some questions for the mayor on Reddit. Okay, Ted, I'll look for that. I typically am in the Mormon Reddit, so make sure you're posted there, and I can maybe post something too. So thanks for your help, Ted. All right, folks, that's it. Again, just get ready for Tuesday, where we're going to be posting the interview with Jonathan Neville and Randy Bell. I think you're going to love it. It's great. I love they're two of my favorite people. They both have one thing in common. They both let me stay at their condos while I visited in Utah. And I made the joke today and said, yeah, and even though I even had put on a kegger at your places, you still are still friends with me. So that was my joke, and they really appreciated it. But I think you all will enjoy. Two of some of the more interesting people I've ever met is Dr. Randy Bell and Jonathan Neville. And I think they bring a lot to the table. So keep an eye out there for Tuesday. Sunday, make sure, again, you're liked and subscribed. Make sure you have your notifications turned on. Got some great interviews coming. Got some more breaking news stories, of course, are always right around the corner here at MBR. And I'm looking forward to hearing your comments, and also getting your questions, so that can inform the conversation with the mayor this Sunday. Okay. All right, folks, it's been great. I love you all. Enjoy your weekend. Get ready for the weekend. I'm excited about this interview we're doing. I really want to appreciate the individual who got us connected to talk together. I would give you props if you wanted me to, but you asked me not to, so I'm not going to. But either way, it's going to be very interesting. So looking forward to hearing your feedback. And then I want to hear your feedback after you watch the interview this Sunday. All right, folks. I love you all. Appreciate you. And remember this, all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews.